Hello, my name is David Tamayo.
And I'm Rob Penzak. Welcome to Road to Reason, a skeptic's guide to the 21st century. David, you want to start us up with a couple of announcements?
Yes, so I'll try a couple of things. One is I want everyone to know that we are having the Pennsylvania Atheist Conference on September 13th through the 15th. There are going to be a lot of interesting people there. It's not that far from the local area here, so you're all welcome to come to this event. I strongly encourage it. And the next one is a shameless plug for myself. I'm going to be speaking at the Fairfax Unitarian Church on Wednesday of this coming week. So if you're in the area, I hope you come by. But I think more interesting than those, I'd like to cover a couple of news. Why don't we get started with some news?
Okay.
I have 4 pieces of news that I found interesting. One is the elders at Richdale Church of Christ told Linda Cooper and 2 relatives that their public support for Kat Cooper, Linda Cooper's gay daughter, went against the church teachings. In a private meeting with the church elders, Linda Cooper was given a choice: publicly atone for their transgressions or leave the church. So guess what she did? She left the church, and I think that's a big thumb up. So Kat Cooper is a detective with the Collegedale Police Department, and this month she had fought successfully for health benefits for her same-sex spouse, Krista, from the town. So that's, I think, a piece of good news.
Well, I think it kind of shows the values that are getting pushed there. You know, the family values that they speak of is stay with us or leave, and kind of divisive there.
Things like this is what makes me feel that we're making progress, you know, as a society. So the next one is in a similar vein. Same-sex married couples will be allowed to file joint federal tax returns. And this was announced by the IRS a couple of days ago. So now married they'll have the same rights as married heterosexual couples. So the Treasury Department and Internal Revenue System Service said that they are treating everybody. Now, the problem is they're not going to go retroactively, so it'll just be from here on. But this is important because 35 states currently oppose same-sex marriage. There's 13 that allow it, more progressive states, and we have 10 states that accept unions and partnerships. So I think this is going to be good for business. It's going to be good for family values and good for the whole world, the whole population as a whole.
Right. And so far as we've seen, a lot of heterosexual marriages are completely falling apart because of this, or are things kind of holding together okay?
Yeah, the marriage, I think, regardless of whether it's same-sex or heterosexual, it brings in that unity that children need to grow in a healthy environment.
Right, you think, again, you're sticking with those family values. Religion and church should not necessarily be opposing this, but embracing people that are moving toward family, and this is not a threat to anybody else's marriage, and that's just bizarre.
I never understood that. It's never been a threat to my marriage. Now, a federal appeals court on Thursday upheld the nation's first-of-its-kind law in California prohibiting health practitioners from offering psychotherapy aimed at making gay youth straight. So this is also another good positive thing.
Thank God.
Yeah, which one? The U.S. Court of Appeals of the 9th District in San Francisco, in a 3-0 decision, ruled that the state's ban on conversion therapy for minors doesn't violate the free speech rights of licensed counselors and patients seeking the treatment. So, among others doing this lawsuit was the Christian mental health counselors who claim their right of free speech is being violated somehow. And sort of similar to this, the New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who's a Republican, this month signed a law that would outlaw conversion therapy in his state also. So right. This is also another piece of good news.
Right, that is some great news. It would be really great news if we did this as a whole nation. You know, the fact that each state can still put kids through this because, you know, religion, which always cries that it's having its rights infringed, you know, but we need to kind of stop as a nation allowing religion to go and tell kids, no, you guys are screwed up, you're going to hell, because they don't fall into the you know, Christian
and it's
lore.
It's this piecemeal thing. So the other last piece of news that I had here is the did you know that honking is Islamophobic?
Well, I heard you mention that before. I didn't quite follow all the logistics, but
for those of you that like to honk, the beep in your car, Swedish prosecutors have decided to charge a 22-year-old man for honking his horn outside the mosque, in a particular mosque in Stockholm, saying that doing so is an act of Islamophobia. The 22-year-old is being charged with I can't say it, with a crime of intentionally disrupting a religious or spiritual ceremony, which is punishable with up to 6 months in jail, according to the Sweden Penal Code. We always think of Sweden as one of these countries that is more open to atheism and secular thinking and so forth, but obviously religion still does very well over there. Now, granted that this particular mosque broadcast in a loudspeaker the call to prayer 5 times a day, and that's not considered a problem with the environment, with the noise pollution or anything like that. But the guy honking his horn, that's Islamophobic, and so I think that word gets thrown out a lot.
And religion is not about equal rights; it's about superior rights for the superior religion of that culture, I suppose. There's one other thing that I read about. I was hoping you could explain a little bit. In Egypt, where the military is recruiting religious leaders to help spread some propaganda, could you explain how that's working?
So I took some notes on that also. In Egypt this week, the military announced that they're putting the imams, this is the equivalent of priests, preachers, that kind of stuff, on their payroll. And the reason for that is that they're worried that many of their officers who are Muslim are starting to sympathize with the Muslim Brotherhood, who, the Brotherhood has been taking advantage of religion to bring in people to see things their way and tell them how to vote and so forth. And so they decided that it's less dangerous if they start hiring some of these imams in order to get the religion involved and convince them that it's God's will for them to go suppress the Muslim Brotherhood. So it's basically my imam against your imam that we have. But bottom line is really religion wins no matter who wins there. Mm-hmm. So regardless of who gets elected or what happens, religion is in the midst. And it's typically the role religion has played over centuries, that if they play both sides, doesn't matter, because whoever wins, they're still going to be in the middle, making saving souls.
Saving souls, right? And you compare that to here in the United States, in both the military and politics, where religion has really dug its claws in. And we've got Blackwater, a whole Christian army, and we've got our regular military is very heavily Christianized. And we can easily look abroad and say, how are they getting these religious leaders to try to shift their politics and military? But we need to look at home and see the influence that our religion has on our military and our politics also.
And we often become blind to it. We see it so much everywhere that sometimes people calling for prayers or saying, bow your heads, we're going to have a prayer where there's a football game or whatever. A lot of people say, oh yeah, we'll just live with it, but it just keeps encroaching and encroaching even more. So so as you can see, the news are always mixed. We're seeing some progress, but you see in some other places, a step backwards. Right.
Speaking of a step backwards, if you can get our first video loaded up, last week we did a little bit of talking about Ken Cuccinelli, Virginia's Attorney General, who's running for governor, and maybe you can run that clip. We'll see about the Cooch.
All right, it's time for tonight's Tool Time Award. And tonight it goes to the Attorney General of Virginia, Ken Cuccinelli. Here's one of my favorite Cuccinelli actions. He altered a version of the state seal because Virtus, a Roman goddess on the seal, had her left breast exposed. And I'm not even making that up.
State flag, the lady, her breast is exposed. And on Ken Cuccinelli's lapel pins that he done got made up, he covered up that breast. If Ken Cuccinelli wants to be covering up female body parts, that's fine, but he needs to be consistent. I think Mr. Cuccinelli needs to take a look at his name. Cuccinelli. Let's break that down. Cuccinelli. There's a female private part in that name there, isn't it? I wonder if Ken Cuccinelli likes to eat here at this yonder place. So I think Mr. Cuccinelli needs to be consistent, not be a hypocrite. If he's going to cover up female private parts, he needs to cover up all of them. So I think he needs to cover up that first part of his name. So from now on, when he talks to people, he'll be like, howdy, y'all. Hi, my name's Ken Nelly. It's in a good message. Hey, we're not going to put up with obscenity or nakedness. We're going to cover up any word or image that shows that, show good values.
Well, thank you there, Clyde. I'm glad.
I'd love to grow a mustache like that. wait a minute. What'd you do with Rob? Who are you?
Whenever we talk about the Cooch, the puerile patriot likes to come out and help lead things on. I love that thing where she has to start off by saying, this isn't a parody. I'm serious. Cuccinelli really wants to cover up the state seal, the
When
breast.
when you know you're in trouble when you have to put that in front and say, look, this is not a joke. This is actually oh, wait a minute. He is right. I thought he was fibbing. Look at this.
What?
Isn't that a left breast being
Just
shown?
a goddess. What are you talking?
This.
Holy crap.
Well, this is a Roman, the goddess of virtue, but
well, it is, but her breast is showing, and that is not virtuous.
well,
are we able to just kill this and maybe re-record later? Because that's on.
I think we're live. I think
live, or you guys?
Yeah. No. This is it. We're going to have to do something about that. We don't want the religious.
What are we going to do?
there.
We're in the middle of this.
Well, this is a Roman god, right? This is.
I'm going to pray. I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm.
Oh, well, who are we going to pray to?
Oh, that's right. I think we got Justin Vaculis coming on and say apparently there's not even a Christian God to pray to anymore.
Well, Roman God is not acceptable.
Yeah,
they show their breasts. So how about if we do
what's
something
more powerful than a Roman goddess?
I think more powerful would be a Greek god, something more ancient.
Ancient.
Well, you have
Iliad
the Iliad, the Odyssey, Trojan story, the war. Trojan. How about a Trojan
Great
god?
Scott! You've got it. The Trojan. All right. The puerile patriot is always prepared, and we're going to fix this. Hold on, everybody.
Oh, you carry it in your head.
Well, I assume that everybody walks around with one of these. It's a Trojan. We're going to unroll this bad boy. We're going to cover up that breast, and then we're going to move on. Just hold on for 1 second.
Hey, stop that! Stop
what
that!
What the heck are you doing?
Don't you know Cuccinelli's thing? Sodomy. It's trying to protect that. Sodom.
This thing in the mouth. Oh, guys,
in the mouth.
You can't put a Trojan by your mouth. That's gay. Oh my. All right.
No. Forget
we're
that.
hosed.
Yeah, you got to take this out. Forget this.
So we got to just scrub the show. I'm thinking.
So what
anything else?
What could we pick that's not a Trojan? Okay, that's
not
a bad
condom.
taste.
Yeah, we can't use a condom. That's totally out of.
So what? What
did I always tell you? The puerile patriot is what?
A moron. I mean,
other than that, aside
more
from
prepared, more
prepared. All right, guys, we are bringing out the Vatican-approved, not a condom, but the Condemn. I don't know if you can really see that. The Condemn is Vatican-approved contraception for the brain. It doesn't let any dangerous thoughts in. It doesn't let any nastiness leak out of your mouth. So,
but wait a minute. Isn't that a Nazi symbol there and a boy? Who's that kid?
Well, this is Ratzinger. You mean when he was a Hitler Youth and sprouting his wings, or do you mean Pope Pius XII, who signed the Concordat with the Nazis? But no, there's no Nazi stuff here. I mean, are you suggesting that the Vatican would get behind an authoritarian regime that spouts bigotry and hatred and leads to the death and torment of millions of people?
Never. The Vatican is a prime example of democracy.
Right, that's where we get our morality from. So now what we need to do with this is a large
how do we use this then?
Well, you need to just stick your finger
stick my finger
in that hole there and just slowly pull that out.
This is
our Condemn. Now, make sure you leave a little nipple at the top there for any thoughts to collect. And then we just roll this over the picture. We just got to cover up the breast. Excuse us for a moment here.
Oh, yeah, that'll cover the breast.
You can get that end. And there we go.
That might just be better to put it on top.
And problem is solved, but you got to pull this all the way over the head in general for a real person.
Yeah.
There.
But if you put it, didn't this come with a warning that children should stay away?
No, we like using this on kids. The Condemn works
Use the bag on kids.
Children, boys and girls, doesn't matter the age. There's not a lot of breathing room. It is possible to die, but when you're talking about saving immortal souls, who cares if the occasional mortal body
Well, we
passes?
know how the Catholic Church has cared for the welfare of children over the years. So yes, I'm glad to see that you came up with a solution that is going to help us out a lot.
We did. So now we need to move on here. If we can pull up, we worry about breasts sometimes, but we have a breast image here. I believe it's the first one. We'll see if we get it right. Breasts are not always dangerous, though. So we're going to try to pull up that image.
I think Cuccinelli thinks breasts are very dangerous.
Yeah, this would be, we've got some boobs like a Jenny McCarthy picture out there. It should be first or second. We have a little problem with our images, so hopefully get them.
I hate the way she thinks with, but she's not bad.
I don't. There we go. Now, again, Cuccinelli might think breasts can kill, but in general, if you don't shut down Planned Parenthood and cancer screening centers, breasts aren't that dangerous.
So we should take. You're telling me that this cover is Cuccinelli approved. Cucci approved.
I'm pretty sure that's a Cucci approved one. Now, if we can go to the next one, so breasts aren't so dangerous. Sometimes jokers, which is our picture number 2 there. You got to go back 1. This is a riddle that's coming up. I hope you're not sneaking a peek at it. But you should find a picture of Jim Carrey, the Joker, there with the cover of his book. And if you can't find it, we'll stay on this. You see a smaller picture. So my question to you is the riddle, the riddler here.
Yeah.
What do you get when a boob, be that a Jenny McCarthy or you can have a politician, you can have a Michelle Bachmann spouting on about HPV vaccines. So you get a boob and a joker, which could be Jim Carrey, or it could be George Bush doing his same Hitler flyover and landing on an aircraft carrier, even though he's not really piloting it, and skipped out on the National Guard. So you mix those, and they start playing doctor, like the National Institutes of Health wing, the alternative medicine brand, which isn't really good medicine. So mix those together, and can we see the answer to that riddle there? It's probably number 4 or so.
Let's see.
We'll see if we can. You just go to a random picture, and I'll tell you if you hit it.
The NIH.
Right, and the answer is, what do you get when you cross those? God knows, or God might not know if there's not really a God.
And this is definitely not funny.
Right, and the Texas State Health Department surely knows, because Mega Minister Kenneth Copeland, right, he was telling people, don't go get this silly measles vaccine, go God's way. And down below you can see, Kenneth. Yeah. And you can also see a child with measles, which had pretty much been wiped out. But this really shows the power of televangelical moonshine, plus the power of faith can resurrect things like ancient infectious diseases.
It's horrible. And I often wonder if these people that preach this, do they vaccinate their own kids? Especially if when they see that they know a lot of times that this is, the vaccination is not going against God in any way, regardless of which God you pick.
Well, and also I think some of these people, I think I'm going to get rid of this puerile hat, because again, we wear this, we're acting like some of the Cuccinelli things are silly, and they are, but some of the results of his policies aren't funny, aren't silly, and then with religious people too, if you get some mega minister telling people, don't do these vaccines, that's the real life consequences, that you'll get outbreaks of things again.
And this is something where I think the federal government needs to get involved and say, look, the welfare of the child comes first. And that comes, regardless of what the parents say or do, we need to make sure that the child is taken care of first. And that's supposed to be the law, but it often is given parental rights. This is what they need to do first. This is what they need to maintain.
And Sean Fairclough talks about how there's lots of religious exemptions. If you want to run a daycare center, you do things that keep the child safe, unless you're a religious institution. Then you can do what you want. And so if kids die of overheating in the van, it's a shame, but we really can't fix it because of religious freedom.
And often there is not questioned just because it's religious. And it comes with the promise that it's okay, the child died, but they'll go to heaven. They're fine. God called them there.
Right.
It makes me sick, to see that kind of stuff.
All right. If we're going to go back, we did a little bit on Cuccinelli last week. If you can pull up that first picture on Cuccinelli, we're going to run through this.
Real quick. Yeah, this is the slides we had last week.
Yeah, so Mother Jones started a Cooch Watch with the idea that if the Cooch is keeping an eye on your vagina, they'd better keep an eye on him. And we went through a meticulous literary analysis like some of the biblical scholars do and some of the creationists do, and we noticed that Jesus Christ, JC, and Ken Cuccinelli, KC, are one letter off. And like they say, it can't just happen. From there, right, we looked at vagina dentata, the toothed vagina from folklore, which terrifies a lot of these religious people.
Been seen in Virginia somewhere.
Indeed, it has. Virgins and vaginae have both been seen in Virginia by that same literary textual alphabetical analysis. We see the boy parts and girl parts. Then down in the bottom right, they lead to a fertilized egg. That's where that bright blast of the soul is implanted by God. And then you see the evolutionary embryos that all look fairly similar in man and other species. You'll also see a yellow arrow pointing right up to Ken Cuccinelli's sperm. And from there, you can trace that divine procession without ever touching
a mother's
vagina.
Yeah.
Goes straight out into the Last Supper. And we see that Jesus actually, that looks like, turned out to be Ken Cuccinelli over a steamer, which has to do with his...
Now why did we put, we got this question, why do we put a steaming pile of crapola in there?
Exactly. Cuccinelli is very much against science, and he's very much against the Environmental Protection Agency. So he tried to say that they were trying to regulate water, and they don't have the right to do that, but they're more concerned with the things in the water, like feces. So, he needs, again, to get that science straight. Let's move on to, go ahead. Next.
No, I was going to say, he needs to understand that this is what we'd really almost literally be eating if it weren't for the EPA.
Not even almost. Okay, next picture. Now, we thought that there was a Jesus Christ and a Ken Cuccinelli connection. Some of our researchers, we have a large research staff here, and they looked into it, and it turns out that Ken Cuccinelli, Ken C, and Clark Kent,
there you go.
they've got their first 4 letters. Not a connection. That's 1 out of 26 to the 4th.
You have to be glad that Dan Brown hasn't seen this anagram, because he'd be writing a book.
Right, he's all over. Well, and then you see we finally got our staff to do some close-up photos, and Superman, it turns out, looks like it may have been Cuccinelli and same with Kent.
All alone.
Right, all along. Now, if you go to the next picture, you'll see why it's less funny.
Yeah.
That's fiction. Christopher Reeves, the actor who played Superman, got paralyzed. One of the things that might have been able to help him or might help people in the future is if we do stem cell research. Ken Cuccinelli doesn't want us doing stem cell research. Why? Because that soul gets implanted into the zygote. And so if you're going to harvest, there you see the human, the procession through a few cells to a ball of cells and then an inner cell mass, and you have to harvest some of those to grow stem cells that are pluripotential. They can develop into anything in the human body. So if you need to regrow hearts or parts of the nervous system that can't regrow as an adult, that could be your ticket. Some of the neurological disorders that might be helped by stem cell research, Parkinson's, we're the million Americans, Huntington's chorea, Lou Gehrig's disease, strokes, spinal cord injuries. So that would help him. Let's go to the next slide. You'll also see Ronald Reagan. Here's another thing that might be helped, Alzheimer's disease. Now, it would have been nice if toward the, before he left presidency, if they had come in and said, if Nancy said, my husband is suffering from Alzheimer's, this is terrible, but we need to address something. Now it's a little bit late, but still, this is her comment about stem cells. And now science has presented us with a hope called stem cell research, which may provide our scientists with many answers that have for so long been beyond our grasp. I don't see how we can turn our backs on this. There are so many diseases that can be cured or at least helped. We've lost so much time already, I can't bear to lose any more.
And it's really sad that we lost 8 years under W. Bush in not moving forward in this field, because it was strongly discouraged by the federal government by not providing appropriate funding for embryonic stem cell research.
Right. And so these are some of the real world things. And you've got some others that you looked into, right? That, we did a little joke here making fun of Ken Cuccinelli and his sex stuff. These are the real policies he's messing with.
And I think maybe we should talk about some of the things that we have lots and lots of things. We're not going to cover everything, but maybe we can talk about a couple of them. One that worries me a lot is the climate science denial. This is something that it's been shown that is funded by big oil, that is funded by a lot of big companies, the Koch brothers.
Koch brothers are very involved, sure.
And so the idea is we're trying to get, make sure that the future of our children and our children's children is guaranteed somehow. And they said, no, let's not worry about it. It's made up. The excuse, and Cuccinelli himself, we spoke this last time, sued a professor in Virginia Tech in order to get him, to
right, Michael Manna at UVA,
yes,
who's since moved on to Penn State. I don't know if he was driven out because
it was UVA?
of that, right? I think he was at UVA.
Sorry, yes. So that to me, it's a witch hunt that he does all the time. Something that we need to. We need our people that are governing our state to be more for clean energy, for greener energy, whatever you want to call it. But we certainly need to be independent. We celebrate the 4th of July independence, and we're not independent. We rely on other countries providing us the oil that we need.
And we need to take it seriously. And more importantly, we need to have an actual debate, I guess, as a country as to how fast it's going to happen, how bad it's going to be. But I think roughly 10 to 15% of people live close enough to the coast that they're likely to get displaced. We have 7 billion people in the world. That's talking about 700 million to 100 billion people. Now I think we have a phone call, so if we can grab that, and then we'll be going to break in just a few minutes. So we have you on the phone?
No, it's
okay. That's a trick. We don't have a phone call. All right. What else? So yes, climate change. What else do you got there?
Well, he strongly supports the so-called personhood amendment, which it's basically the moment the sperm touches the egg. There's a soul, you can't touch it, it's a person. So I suppose we can write it off our taxes. If my wife is pregnant, I can keep her perpetually pregnant with that.
Right. That's important to remember that roughly half or 60% of all pregnancies and conceptions have spontaneous abortion. So is God, according to Cuccinelli, the largest mass murderer in history? He's had, several billion abortions by that definition of, personhood starting.
Well, the Cooch also claims that Virginia can disobey federal law if it disagrees with it, and in fact has suggested that if 60% of the states don't like a law, they should just not follow federal law, which really is bringing us back to the time of the formation of the country, before we had our Constitution.
Right.
And before the Civil War, before all of that, and he seems to think that that's a good thing. So,
if I can interrupt for a second, I'm sorry, and I meant to get to this earlier, kind of last week, but it's a little embarrassing. before we talk, do you have your green card? Because I'm not even sure if you're legitimate for me to be talking to. I hope that's not offensive.
Desgraciado viene aquí a decirme que si soy legal o no.
He's going Mexican on me. Can somebody help me out here?
You know, do you think Cuccinelli is running this thing already? Wait at least until he gets elected.
He's got my vote. I mean, he's got my vote.
That just
that's
makes
un-American.
That just makes me sick.
No, but seriously, Cuccinelli has tried to embrace the Arizona's plan for immigration, and I don't know how he feels about Mitt Romney's self-deportation.
Yeah.
How
he
insulting is that?
He loves it. He thinks that this is the best thing we should do, that police officers in every county and every person that works for the city or whatever should be asking everyone they find that looks Hispanic. You look a little Hispanic also.
Got a little color, yeah.
Say, hey, are you legal here? Prove it and be around showing it. You know, so that is, if you're a U.S. citizen, as I am, it's really insulting because, you know, we're trying to be normal and we're getting preferential treatment in the sense of being questioned, our citizenship, our loyalties, and so forth.
Right now, 2 other puerile patriots out there. He still didn't show me his card, so we're not really sure.
Tell the truth, I don't have one.
Obama never showed his card. Can we extend this to dark-skinned people, yellow-skinned, red-skins,
Mormons
Jews?
did a good job at that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying this could get expanded to all of us, and there's that old saying: first they came for everybody except for me. And as people that are concerned with other human beings, this isn't just a Hispanic problem. This is everybody's problem. And when Trayvon Martin got gunned down, that's not just a black problem. This is everybody's problem. We need to be a more decent country.
Absolutely. So we definitely, now, do we have time for another
couple
of things?
Yeah, you got one more. We got another mention.
All right. So he claimed, that he has pushed to defunct embryonic stem cell research,
right, we talked about the
oddly enough,
that.
which is crucial to curing diseases. He believes that homosexual acts are, quote unquote, intrinsically wrong, don't comport to natural law, not healthy to an individual, and in aggregate is not healthy to a society. So
this is based upon his years of research and PhD experience.
Maybe he had some experiences.
Wouldn't be the first, perhaps, I suppose.
Exactly. And he wants to criminalize sodomy in Virginia. And his vote to ignore the U.S. Supreme Court ruling when he was a senator in 2004 that helped create the uncertainty over the provision. So,
right. As an attorney general, I don't think we showed the clip. I forgot if we did it last week, where he's basically telling people, hey, they can go. I think it may have been with, looking for immigrations, that police are allowed to do this right now. Now, the citizen doesn't have to answer the questions, and that was his, defense as the attorney general recommending, don't worry about the law. You can just ignore it as a citizen.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So there are far many more things that
yes.
that we can probably touch upon.
Right,
but
we'll try to get back to Cooch Watch on another show. Where
we have
halfway
Justin.
Point. Right. So we're going to take a little break here. When we come back, we're going to have Justin Vakula to tell us about his debate yesterday about whether or not the Christian God really exists.
At NASA right now, scientists and engineers are working every day to help humans learn how to better care for our home so that we never have to leave. NASA has a fleet of satellites around the planet that keeps track of climate change and studies how humans are affecting the planet. NASA has a ton of geniuses, and all of them are working for a future that has a healthy Earth in it. Like when NASA helped find the hole in our ozone layer so we could fix it before the problem got out of control, NASA is doing its part. We have to do ours. This is our home. To learn more about how NASA is keeping an eye on Earth, visit www.nasa.gov/Earth.
When I was younger, I didn't want to admit I had a serious disease. Because of my diabetes, I lost the sight in my left eye. Misconceptions continue to surround this monster public health issue. But the simple truth is, diabetes can often be prevented and complications avoided. You're not alone. Understand the realities of diabetes and know that you can manage it and lead a full, active life.
There's an alarming trend in the world today. Everywhere you go, people are saying that cinema is dead. But cinema is not dead. My name is Count Simon Gauntley, and on my television program, Count Gauntley's Horrors from the Public Domain, I make it my mission to resurrect forgotten film classics. I promise to dredge the sewers and ford the stagnant streams of film history to ensure that no film is truly lost to the ages. Count Gauntly and FPA, keeping cinema alive! Alive! Alive!
Well, even though Joseph's been gone 18 months, we've made the decision to keep all his things as they were when he was here last. I finally just packed his toothbrush away like 6 months ago. It had been sitting on the counter in the bathroom. And I was cleaning the bathroom one day and I just thought, okay, it's time to put the toothbrush in the medicine cabinet.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Thank you very much for those commercials. I really like that last one. Today, we have the honor and privilege of changing topics now to something a lot better. The honor of having Justin Venkula here in our, well, live on...
Live via Skype.
Via satellite.
Satellite or Skype.
We don't know. So, let me say one thing about him. Justin is an activist, a debater, a really concerned guy for secularism, is to be admired. And last night he debated Reverend Michael, I always have a hard time saying Reverend because I don't see him as Michael Brewster, pastor of Mount Zion Baptist Church. And Justin is also the co-organizer of NEPA, the Free Thought Society, and he has written extensively on his blog. He's got a wonderful blog that I recommend, and he lives in Pennsylvania. So that's what I wanted to say about him before we get started. He's a really cool guy.
Sounds great.
We like him a lot.
So Justin, tell us a little bit about the debate, how it came about in the first place, what you debated, and how you think it went.
Well, thank you for having me on the show today.
Sure.
I debated Pastor Brewster last night in his church, Mount Zion Baptist Church. We talked about, does the Christian God exist? I think it went really well. It was well attended. We had about 75 people in the audience, which was pretty good considering a week of promotion. And I was pretty confident going in, and at the end of the debate, I felt that my arguments were not answered, and the case that Pastor Brewster presented was not sufficient.
Was God in the audience? Did he show up for it?
No.
How did you get the pastor to agree? Many pastors really don't like to do these kinds of things because they know what's going to happen. It'll happen what happened last night. A lot of things will be pointed out and they won't be able to answer. So how did you get him to agree?
Well, I issued an open debate challenge to Northeastern Pennsylvania and beyond for anyone who wants to debate, does the Christian God exist? Is God necessary for morality? And other topics. Pastor Brewster is pretty prominent in this area because he organizes a National Day of Prayer event. I had attended the National Day of Prayer event in protest and had met him at the event, asked if he was interested in a debate. He agreed, and 2 or 3 months later, we debated.
That's cool. One of the things I noticed is you were careful at the beginning to try to set out a definition for God. Can you explain why that's important that you both agree at the beginning what God you're talking about? And one of the things that struck me as so difficult is he kept trying to go into, well, it's immaterial, and how can you try to apply logic and reason to an immaterial God? So again, why is it important to define a God, and did he stick with his definition of a Christian God?
Yeah, it's very important to have the definition when you are debating. We're not simply debating a being or a creator. He talked about the Christian God as being a transcendent, infinite, intelligent, all-powerful being from which all things live, move, and exist. He put forth several assertions. He was talking about everything that begins to exist has a cause, so the universe needs to have a cause, and of course that cause has to be God. He was saying that consciousness and logic need to be accounted for, and that God is that accounting because it's harmonious with what is presented in the Christian Bible. And many of my rebuttals were, well, I don't see how this gets us to the Christian God. If we have something that's unexplained, I don't see how that gets us to a specific God. And his response was, well, we're not here to debate the nature of the Christian God. We're here to debate whether God exists. And I find that quite perplexing because he needs to demonstrate the nature of this being, because that's part of the definition of what we were talking about.
Now, why should we do debates? Why do you do debates?
Well, I think debating is a very educational opportunity to expose ideas to the public and get people involved with the arguments. I think many from his church have never met an open atheist before, or have never really heard the arguments, at least presented in a debate format. So this gives people the opportunity to interact with ideas, and it similarly gives atheists like me and others a chance to interact with the ideas of religious believers. And of course, there are people in the middle, people who aren't really committed to any particular position, who will get to hear the ideas put forth. I find it very important to continue engaging with ideas that are contrary to our beliefs so that we can be kept honest.
Yeah, I think I like the point that you made, going back to the other one, about the Christian God. To say that you're not arguing about his nature, it just seems preposterous. They're talking about an all-loving God that's out there to help us. And then when you try to bring it, and he actually had the audacity to throw in slavery. And I made a note, as he said, is he really can use slavery as a defense for the Christian God. And then you tried to address that later, by the very end, when some people in the audience were asking questions. Were you at all satisfied that he answered the question of, theodicy, why is there so much suffering, and slavery is a good topic to launch on?
Right. Well, one of my opening arguments was what I call the problem of natural suffering, that there are so many natural disasters in the world. We look around, and this provides evidence against an all-loving, all-knowing, all-powerful God, to make it very short for the purposes of this show. Later on, he was talking about morality, and he also brought this up in his opening statements, that there is absolute morality, and this needs a lawgiver, and that lawgiver is God, to give a shortened form of what he was saying. And later in the debate, he just happened to say, well, how do you know slavery is wrong if you don't have a lawgiver? Morality is relative. If it's just humans, they're left to their own vices. I find it very interesting that he brought up slavery, because I see that slavery in the Bible is condoned. In the Old Testament, there are rules for slavery, and I would think if God inspired this Bible, that God would put a stop to this and put that in the commandments, perhaps not only the first 10, but many that followed. This would seem to be a very obvious thing.
Many of the people that are watching the show are probably interested in doing debates themselves and approaching other people, and I think it's something that perhaps should be done more often. What would you consider? You already mentioned a couple of things that were problematic, the problem of evil and the problem of slavery. What other things you think are good things to bring up that are tough for the religious to answer in this venue?
My second argument in the debate was the problem of divine hiddenness, the fact that this God supposedly wants everyone to believe, and there's punishment for not believing, at least on Pastor Brewster's version of God, but yet God doesn't reveal himself. God doesn't make his existence obvious so that everyone believes. So people of other religions are supposed to be tormented for all eternity for no fault of their own. And he says that people have the evidence that God has revealed himself to people, that he has imbued people with faith, but these are all assertions. Saying that, God, the evidence has been provided is not sufficient. We need to demonstrate that. But there were many assertions in this debate. So I used the problem of natural suffering, the problem of divine hiddenness as two arguments against the Christian God. In a previous debate, I have used the problem of theological fatalism, which is perhaps more academic and advanced. The idea that if God knows our future, that we have to be predetermined, that there is no free will, but yet the Christian beliefs usually say that there is free will. So there seems to be a contradiction there. Again, this is a shortened form. Another debate or another argument I've used before in a debate is what I call the inductive argument for naturalism. That we look through history, we see that there were many things that were unexplained that we thought were to have been caused by miracles, caused by gods, caused by whatever else, but over time we see that more and more becomes explained, and we need God less in our explanation. Eventually he's really to the gaps.
You know, in terms of that, I think you called it, you have to remind me of something about fatalism, theological fatalism.
Right.
If you look at the prosperity doctrine, I guess that kind of goes against it, so they try to have it both ways, that, you know, if you do well here, and I think that really plays into our capitalism now, if you're a millionaire, if you're Mitt Romney, it must be because you're a good, upstanding individual, and that God has chosen you ahead of time. Another point that the pastor tried to make was that in proving God, that we know it's self-evident that reason is greater than unreason and consciousness is greater than unconsciousness. And these seemed so that they didn't prove anything. If you look at what the church does in terms of using intelligence and your rational brain, they strive so hard to stop you from thinking. And I wonder if any of those arguments that he made, he gave a list of 6 things that he considered, I guess he presupposed were self-evident. Did he have anything that made you take a second look, or was it all fluff?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what it means that consciousness is greater than unconsciousness, or that sense is greater than senselessness, and how this has anything to do with the Christian God existing. He was saying these things are self-evident, and there are these immaterial things, and we can't account for them. He said the atheist position is empiricism. I'm not really sure what he meant by that, because I'm not a sole empiricist, but he was making it to be the case that, well, if you believe in things like logic and reason, how could you somehow deny God, because those things are immaterial and God is too? Well, I have good reason to believe in reasoning and logic, and it's not up to me, as there was some burden shifting going on throughout this debate, to give an accounting for reason or logic or morality or anything like that. He needs to demonstrate that the existence of logic or morality leads to God's existence, but I don't feel that we got that from the debate.
Yeah, we're just saying that's crazy talk, logic, you know, good. So you were pretty good, I have to admit. I heard the debate, and it was pretty good. I wish I would have been there in person, because I think body language also says a lot, and I didn't have that. But when you prepare for a debate, or when you do a debate, what are the things that worry you the most?
Well, something that worries me is if something is brought up that I don't really have the answer to. So what I do to prepare for that is to review certain literature and review debates that I enjoy. One particular piece of reading that I would recommend for everyone is Dialogues Concerning Natural Religion by David Hume. It goes through an explanation of many common arguments and gives arguments for and arguments against certain positions. Although it's a bit of an older work, it's still a modern philosophy work, and it's really good. I think it's a big foundation in philosophy of religion. So Dialogues Concerning Natural Religion from David Hume is really good. So I read through that a few times, and I took some notes. I anticipated some of the things the pastor might say, and I made a list of rebuttals, some quick points to respond to some of his arguments. I also, as I said, listened to some debates. I listened to a debate, Arif Ahmed versus William Lane Craig, which I thought was particularly good. There was another one that was Shelley Kagan versus William Lane Craig. Craig is often thought of as this foremost apologist. I don't think he particularly does a good job, but there are many people who go against him who do. So if people are going to repeat the arguments of Craig, it's good to listen to what Craig is saying and how people are responding. So this is how I prepared for the debate.
You know, it's interesting with William Lane Craig. I guess it really depends what your purpose is in having the debate. You know, who is he speaking to? Is he trying to reach a well-read audience that knows science and knows religion? Or is he trying to court people, like give people on the far right an excuse to maintain their beliefs? You know, so there's 2 different audiences. One of the things that really struck me was by the end of your debate, when you start taking questions from the audience. And it seemed that you had really reached the audience, and they were very curious and really did have some questions that I think you were eager to answer, and that the pastor did not seem so eager to hear. I don't know if you can contrast maybe an atheist openness versus the religious apologist closed-mindedness to that?
Well, there was one question that was regarding slavery, and the question was, how can you account for Christian slaveholders if God is supposed to be objective morality? And I believe Pastor Brewster's answer was something along the lines of, well, we can talk about slavery, but the debate's not about slavery, although he brought up slavery into the debate. And I think the question was very relevant, although Pastor Brewster didn't think it was relevant. So I used my minute of response time after Pastor Brewster ceded his time. And I said, if you are going to put God, the Christian God, forth, as you propose, as this foundation of morality, and we see this God doing things that go against what you're saying is moral, then we can rule that candidate out as the grounding of morality. I also mentioned one point in the debate about God commanding genocide in the Old Testament. There's so much more in addition to that. So if he's going to propose that God is the candidate for morality, and we could point out some immoral acts that are in the Old Testament and the New, that's a big problem.
Okay, well, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I think part of those questions yesterday were asking about morality and ethics and so forth. And so how do we know as non-believers what is, how do we know right from wrong? And I think that was what they were trying to ask you yesterday, last night. Now that you don't have all 75 people looking at you and with a piercing look, what would your answer be?
Well, one thing I did not want to get roped into in the debate was going on these red herrings here and giving an accounting for morality, giving an accounting for logic, giving an accounting for the beginning of the universe, if the universe even had a beginning. I didn't want to get into these things because it seems to be off topic. It was Pastor Brewster who was suggesting that these things lead to the Christian God, so he needs to demonstrate that. I didn't want to use my rebuttal, giving accounting for the universe, giving accounting for morality, whatever happened to be the case. It wouldn't have been a good use of my time, and I see that when this moral argument is put forth, that many people will try to give this accounting for morality, and this doesn't seem to be relevant to the debate at hand, but we can talk about various schools of thought in the history of philosophy. We can talk about deontology, consequentialism, utilitarianism, virtue ethics, and many of these systems have pros and cons. I don't think it's very easy. I don't think it's as easy as Pastor Brewster is saying that we could just point to a Bible. We're still interpreting it. We're going to interpret the book when we look at it, and clearly we've seen that throughout history, and the church is still involved in a great deal of wrong. So I don't think that anyone has the absolute answers, and if he's going to say that there is objective or absolute morality, he also needs to demonstrate that too. Just saying, oh, well, we know right and wrong, or God has endowed us with that is not enough. He needs to demonstrate that.
I guess it depends on your audience again somewhat. If you're speaking to a scientifically literate group that understands evolution as a fact, then you could say, well, we're a species of primates that's extremely social, and our brain has evolved in this way where morality helps us, bond together. But if only 1 out of 6 people in the audience even believes in evolution, if you have a 2-minute rebuttal, you're going to spend 1 minute 54 seconds explaining why evolution is true, and then say, try to make that connection. So there's no way to win that fight. In terms of the God of the gaps, this is like a Where's Waldo as science keeps squeezing him out. Are there any gaps left for God? Is that what the whole thing about immaterial God, where you can't use your logic and reason, God is immaterial, is that the latest gap they're hiding in?
Yeah, it's usually the universe and consciousness, that we can't explain these things, and God is the best explanation, so therefore we should believe in God, or belief in God is justified. But I don't see this as a good strategy to go upon. As we've seen throughout history, many things like earthquakes were once thought of as to be inventions of God's. The lightning rod, actually, when it was proposed, it was said that this would go against the will of God, and how is God going to strike people down with lightning if we're going to put lightning rods? It's going to interfere with his plan. This was said at one point, but we see throughout history that we could explain phenomena in the universe, and it might be the case that we'll never explain origins of the universe, or know whether the universe is infinite, or if the universe had a beginning, or any of these things. We might never know, but just because we don't know doesn't give us good reason to say God did it. Why not just say, I don't know? And if we're going to say, well, God just doesn't have a cause, then why not just say, well, the universe doesn't have a cause?
It's, with the consciousness thing, it's really interesting, because I went to graduate school in computer science on artificial intelligence. And among computer people, there's no doubt that at some point we're going to have artificial intelligence, and we'll have computers that will think and that will be self-aware. And so, I wonder what the test for consciousness is. How can you test if somebody has consciousness or not? I mean, does my dog have it? Does an earthworm? Does a computer?
You have a Christian computer.
Exactly. So it becomes, now you're going to start, Mormons are going to start, trying to see my PC or, trying to talk to my computer. But you pointed out something really important, that is the red herring that they throw out. Are there any other things that we should watch out in doing the debate, tricks that the other side uses in order to knock us out? Can you talk about some of that?
Well, I like to stick to epistemology. How do we know what we know? If we spend a debate or discussion talking a lot about metaphysics and getting into things like the universe, or why does the universe exist, why do we exist and not exist, things like this, we could spend a lot of time on these topics, and these are very interesting topics. But in a debate format, we're obviously very limited in time. So I was sticking to, how do you know what you know? What is the evidence for this? What is the reason for this? And I kept saying this throughout the debate. And by sticking to this, rather than responding to these questions about morality or logic or consciousness, I think this was a very effective way to do things. And even when on the street, you won't have so much time to talk to people either. It's very rare that you're going to sit down with someone and talk to them for hours and hours, as these discussions might take. So in a short setting, I advise people to stick to the how do you know what you know is being advocated by Dr. Peter Boghossian in his upcoming book, A Manual for Creating Atheists. He talks about sticking to epistemology as a very important part of the discussion.
One of the points that the pastor brought up as his reason for believing had to do with personal experience. Mm-hmm. And we know there was the neurosurgeon who had meningitis, and while his brain was bathed in E. coli and toxins, decided, there really is a heaven. I don't know how convincing that would seem to you, but how do you get to these people that just because you believe in pink elephants doesn't make it true and doesn't make us believe it either?
Yeah, I'm really happy he brought up the religious experience argument, because I was very prepared for it, and I was thinking that he was going to. It took some time in the debate to get there, and during the end of the debate I didn't have all the time to respond to it. But what I did say earlier in the debate is that faith is an unreliable means to arriving at a conclusion, because many people are using this process of faith and they're arriving at different conclusions. They're getting different results. They're saying, I had this personal experience and I believe it was Allah. I had this personal experience, it was Vishnu, Krishna, Brahman, whatever happens to be the case. But they all can't be right. They certainly all could be wrong, but they all can't be right. So if you as a Christian are going to say, this personal experience gives me justification to believe in the Christian God, and the Muslim, using the same method, comes and arrives at a different conclusion, you can't accept the Muslim's conclusion. You would have a contradiction if you did. And obviously Christians didn't. So why, as I said in the debate, privilege the Christian God over these other explanations? And I didn't hear much of an account for that either. Otherwise, we just presuppose the Bible, and this is just what we presuppose, but we need reasons for that. It is like if we were to see something in a field and I were to say, that's a cow, I'm pretty sure that's a cow, and someone else said, no, that's a horse, and someone said, no, that's a sheep, we would have good reason to doubt our experience, because so many people are coming to different conclusions about what is. So that's something I think that people ought to push when they have these discussions, that religious experiences aren't good reason for belief.
And I certainly feel that my mechanic, the mechanic that is fixing the airplane that I'm getting on, that he knows what he's doing, and not having faith that that'll just work, So this brings me to a question. How do you know, you were there looking at the audience, and so you could see the body language that people were, how they were reacting and so on. First of all, did you see anyone that looked like was binding to what you were saying, being a religious person? And how do you know if you won the debate? I mean, how do we know if you did okay or you did terrible?
Well, it's really hard to say that one won a debate, but if we're going to look at a debate as a debate would be judged in, say, high school or college, if arguments are not responded to, as was the case in the debate, the problem of natural suffering did not even get addressed in the debate, which was very strange. I was ready to respond to what Pastor Brewster was going to say, or what I think he was going to say, But we didn't hear a response until maybe the closing statements or the question and answer, but the rebuttal was the time for that. And the problem of divine hiddenness was hardly addressed because Pastor Brewster was just saying that, oh, well, God just reveals himself through faith and this and that. But we didn't hear responses. So by him not addressing the arguments, I would say he didn't win the debate. But people talk of convincing the audience. Were people moved by the arguments? Did people change their position from when they came in? Are people going to think about the ideas? The ultimate goal, I think, is that people reflect on the information that's brought forward and continue the conversation in their own domains and interact with these ideas. I would think that many in Pastor Brewster's congregation have never really met an open atheist before. So perhaps this image of the atheist as this angry, mean, poor-spirited person or whatever they have will be dispelled after actually interacting with me, and the debate was quite civil, so maybe some of the illusions they had were taken away after this debate.
Well, we're going to have mean, virulent, strident atheist Richard Dawkins here in the end of September, so we're looking forward to that. I like the point that you brought up about how if God really wanted to explain to people that he exists, you think an omnipotent God would be able to do that a little more successfully,
right,
and not have all these people thinking different things. And contrast that to science, where for evolution, for instance, you get 10 different lines of science all converging on the same set of facts that gives you confidence that it's true. If you don't mind leaving the debate, we've just got a couple minutes left here. Can you tell us about what you do otherwise, in terms of your activism, how you got involved in it, and what are some projects or things that you're working on?
Right. I initially got involved in the secular community in 2009 when I started questioning my religious belief and came to the conclusion that my beliefs were unjustified. I started reading literature from Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, the usual suspects, the Four Horsemen. And I moved on to say and think that, wow, there's this big problem with religious belief. I could see the harm that it's causing in the world, and I wanted to get involved in the community. I tried to start a Secular Student Alliance chapter at the college I attended, and it was ultimately rejected. And throughout the proposal process, I was getting a lot of hatred from fellow students. So having this idea that there could be harm in belief and there's division was vindicated when I actually saw it myself and had to personally deal with it. Later in the year, I had gotten involved in church-state issues when I filed a complaint against a lone nativity scene that was on a courthouse lawn. The nativity scene was taken down. I received all sorts of hate mail from local Christians and fellow students, or fellow peers in college. And from there, I just started getting involved with more issues, working alongside the Freedom From Religion Foundation, putting up banners on public square, arguing against legislation in the state of Pennsylvania, deeming Pennsylvania to be the year of the Bible, for instance, and getting involved with my local organization that I'm now the co-organizer of, the NEPA Free Thought Society. And I write, I host my radio show, and it can be quite busy. It's important to take time to relax and enjoy hobbies outside.
Thank you so much. We're cutting out here in just about 15 seconds. Being an activist is really hard. We appreciate the work that you're doing. Please look us up on our Facebook page, and you'll get some links to Justin. Thank you for joining us, and I think you did a great job in the debate.
Thank you,
All right,
Justin.
thank you for having me on.
Okay. See you next week.